Karen Reed, indicted for second-degree murder in the death of Officer John O'Keefe.
This is how it just ended, with a media storm.
Free Karen Reed!
Protest for Karen Reed right there. But it started with a real storm.
On a cold winter's night in January 2022, the life of Boston police officer John O'Keefe ended tragically.
911, what's emergency?
There's a guy unresponsive in the snow. Don't know if he's breathing.
What began as a night of camaraderie and celebration with friends turned into a mysterious, tragic event that would spark a whirlwind of questions and controversy.
Worried he might have gotten hit by a plow. That was my first thought. It's the only explanation I could think of for why John just disappeared into thin air.
And now the woman at the center of it is speaking out fully for the first time.
And I said, he's right there.
The next morning, John's girlfriend, Karen Reed, found his lifeless body partially buried in snow, not far from where she had supposedly dropped him off just hours earlier. As investigators began piecing together the events of that night, new theories and inconsistencies emerged, leading many to wonder if foul play might have been involved. Today, we dive into the mysterious circumstances surrounding Officer John O'Keefe's death and examine the chilling details that continue to perplex both investigators and the public. John O'Keefe was a respected member of the Boston Police Department, known for his dedication, work ethic, and compassionate nature. He had served his community with integrity and had earned a reputation as a stand-up officer among his peers. Those who knew John described him as loyal, protective, and someone who had a deep commitment to his loved ones and his job. By his side was Karen Reed, his girlfriend of over a year. The two were known to be close, sharing a relationship that, by all accounts, seemed loving and supportive. Friends and family recall them as a happy couple with a future ahead of them, filled with plans and possibilities. On the night of January 28, 2022, the couple was excited to go out, spending time together and with friends to unwind after a long work week. Little did anyone know this would be the last night John would ever be seen alive. On the night of January 28th, John and Karen, along with several other friends, went out to a few local bars in Boston to relax and socialize. The night was cold, typical for Boston winters, with temperatures dropping well below freezing. The streets were covered in patches of snow and ice, a reminder of the harsh winter conditions that had swept through the area. The evening started off smoothly with drinks, laughter, and good company. They spent hours moving from bar to bar, unwinding from the stresses of work. According to friends, John was in high spirits, enjoying the night alongside his girlfriend and fellow police officers who had become close friends over the years. By midnight, as the bars started closing, an off-duty sergeant from the Boston Police Department extended an invitation to continue the night back at his home in Canton, Massachusetts, for an after-party. Karen agreed to drive John there, intending to drop him off before heading home herself. It was a short drive from the bars, and both John and Karen seemed comfortable with this plan. Karen later stated that she dropped John off outside the sergeant's home and then drove away, believing he would join the after-party with his colleagues. She then headed home, expecting John to contact her once he was ready to leave. When Karen woke up the next morning and realized that John hadn't come home, her initial feeling was one of mild concern. Perhaps he had stayed late at the after-party or decided to crash at a friend's place, she thought. But as the hours passed with no word from John, her worry grew.
Can't believe it's talking good.
Hi, my name is Terry. I'm calling because my friend's boyfriend did not come home last night. We were at Waterfalls, and now she is calling me hysterical because she doesn't know where he is. You didn't pick anybody up by the name of John O'Keefe, did you?
John O'Keefe?
Yeah, he's a Boston cop.
No, we didn't lock it.
By mid-morning, Karen was frantic. She began calling his phone repeatedly, but there was no answer. Finally, Karen made the decision to retrace her steps from the night before, driving back to the sergeant's house in Canton in the hope of finding John safe. She didn't expect to find anything out of the ordinary, perhaps just an explanation as to why he hadn't returned her calls. But as she arrived at the house, her worst fears were realized. Lying partially buried in snow, just steps from the sergeant's driveway, was John's lifeless body. His face was bruised, his body stiff from the freezing temperatures. Karen immediately called 911, but it was too late. John was pronounced dead shortly afterward, his body cold to the touch from hours spent exposed to the harsh winter weather. As the news of John's death spread, his family, friends, and colleagues were left in shock. Initial autopsy reports pointed to two primary causes of death: blunt force trauma and hypothermia. The blunt force trauma was severe enough that it raised eyebrows, as it didn't align with the typical injuries sustained in a simple fall. There were suspicions that John may have been struck by a vehicle or suffered injuries in an altercation before being left outside in the snow. The autopsy findings complicated the case. Hypothermia, although a significant factor in John's death, did not fully explain the injuries he sustained. The blunt force trauma suggested a possible struggle or an accident that led to his incapacitation before the cold eventually claimed his life. The combination of injuries made it difficult for investigators to determine the exact timeline and events that led to his death. Questions began swirling around Karen and anyone else who might have seen John in his final moments. Karen Red was deeply distraught by John's death, as any loved one would be. She provided a statement to the police, recounting her actions from the night before. According to her, she had driven John to the sergeant's house, dropped him off, and headed home. Karen's statement was clear. She had no involvement in John's tragic fate beyond her attempts to find him the following morning. She emphasized that she had loved John and would never harm him. However, Karen's account raised questions. Why had John been found outside in the snow rather than inside the sergeant's house where the after-party was supposedly taking place? Had he even made it to the door, or had something happened to him before he could enter? Investigators probed Karen's story, looking for any inconsistencies or evidence that might suggest a different series of events. As Karen became a central figure in the investigation, rumors and theories began to spread. Some questioned whether she had been entirely truthful about the events of that night, while others believed she was an innocent victim, devastated by the loss of her boyfriend and unfairly drawn into a tragic mystery.
Possible that you hit him with the back of your car and just didn't realize it.
And I said, this guy didn't get hit by a car. John O'Keefe was murdered, no question. He died at the hands of another person.
Nobody could have imagined, what was about to happen next.
There are people that know exactly what happened to John O'Keefe.
One of the main points of contention in this case is the location and timing of John's injuries. If John had fallen or been struck by something after Karen dropped him off, how had no one from the party inside the house noticed or heard anything? The idea that John had been left outside unnoticed in such frigid conditions seemed strange to many. One theory was that John might have accidentally fallen or been struck by Karen's vehicle as she was driving away. However, Karen denied any involvement in a possible hit and run, insisting that she had left John safely at the front of the house. Forensic analysis of her car didn't reveal any conclusive evidence of an accident, adding to the confusion around this theory. Another theory that circulated was that John had been involved in an altercation, either before or after arriving at the sergeant's house. While there was no concrete evidence to support this, the severity of his injuries left room for speculation. Friends and family wondered if something had happened in those crucial moments after Karen drove off, a confrontation or an accident that ultimately left John incapacitated in the snow. As the investigation progressed, the community became increasingly invested in John's case. Many people were horrified by the idea that such a dedicated officer could have met such a tragic end, left alone in the freezing cold. Vigils were held in John's honor, with friends and colleagues calling for justice and clarity on what had truly happened that night. Public opinion was divided. While some believed Karen's version of events and viewed her as an innocent party, others were skeptical, questioning the gaps in her story and wondering if she knew more than she was letting on. The media coverage intensified, with news outlets dissecting every detail of the case, fueling the ongoing debate over whether John's death was a tragic accident or the result of foul play. As of today, John O'Keefe's death remains shrouded in mystery. Despite extensive investigations and numerous theories, a definitive explanation has yet to emerge. The circumstances surrounding his death are complex, and every detail seems to raise more questions than answers. Why was John left outside in the cold, and how did he sustain such severe injuries? Did he attempt to enter the sergeant's house, or was he incapacitated before he could reach safety? And most importantly, was his death an accident, or is someone responsible? The answers remain elusive, leaving John's family and the community in a painful limbo, unable to find closure or justice for a man who dedicated his life to protecting others. The death of John O'Keefe stands as a haunting mystery that continues to captivate those who seek the truth. It serves as a reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating impact of unanswered questions on those left behind. For now, all we can do is hope that the ongoing investigation will one day bring clarity, justice, and peace for John's loved ones. This brings us to the end of the script, encapsulating the tragic events and remaining questions surrounding John O'Keefe's mysterious death. If you found this video thought-provoking, please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more true crime stories as we delve into the most perplexing mysteries and cases around the world.